The afternoon sun blazed over the quiet town of Alder Ridge, but the heat wasn't what made people stop and stare. It was the sight of a little girl running across the sidewalk with tears streaking down her dusty cheeks. Her backpack bounced against her shoulders as she stumbled to a halt near a row of parked motorcycles, her tiny hands trembling as she clutched the straps. Her heartbeat pounded louder than the engines that had brought the men here. She didn't know who they were. She didn't know if they were safe. She only knew one thing: they were her last chance. With a voice that cracked from fear and desperation, she begged for help, words tumbling out so fast she could barely breathe. That moment would change everything for her. And for the men who heard her cry. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and standing up for the vulnerable, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Stories like this deserve to be heard. Her name was Mariel Hayes, a quiet 9-year-old whose world had been shrinking for months. Her mother, Celine, had remarried a man named Victor, someone who spoke sweetly at first but changed the moment the wedding ring touched his hand. He wasn't always cruel, not in ways the world could easily see, but he carried a darkness in him that Mariel had learned to fear. He took control of the house, the finances, the routines, and little by little, even her mother's voice. But what terrified Mariel the most was how Victor's obsession with her movements became more intense, how he watched her every step, and how he whispered that she belonged to him now. When he announced they were leaving town and she'd no longer be allowed to go to school, eat with her friends, or talk to her grandparents, her heart locked up in panic. She had only minutes to run. Only one sliver of hope. And she took it. Across the street, a group of bikers from a club called Iron Valor had stopped for a quick break on their long ride across the state. They were big men with worn leather vests, heavy boots, sunburned skin, and faces that looked carved from stone. But not all stone is cold. Their presence alone commanded attention, and Mariel knew, somehow, instinctively, that they were strong enough to help her. The first biker who noticed her was Rhodes Mercer, a man with steel blue eyes, silver threading through his beard, and an expression that always seemed half-tired, half-watchful. He had lived through things that hardened him, but nothing hardened him more than seeing a child afraid. In a single breathless rush, Mariel pleaded that her stepfather was trying to take her away forever, her voice cracking with terror as she tried to explain. Rhodes didn't interrupt. He didn't question. He simply crouched down so he could look her straight in the eye, letting the other bikers gather silently behind him. When someone is truly in danger, their fear isn't confusing, it's unmistakable. Rhodes felt that fear in every word she spoke. The bikers weren't perfect men. They had their stories, their shadows, their past mistakes, but they were fiercely protective of the innocent. Rhodes stood up slowly, turned to his brothers, and gave a nod that didn't need words. Within seconds, they formed a loose circle around Mariel, not trapping her, but shielding her. People walking by sensed something was wrong and slowed down. Cars passed more carefully. Even the air seemed to thicken with the weight of the moment. Rhodes asked her to breathe, to tell him what she was running from. Piece by piece, in a trembling voice, she painted a picture of control, fear, and a stepfather who had grown more possessive with each passing day. She didn't detail everything, children never do, but she said enough to make Rhodes's fists clench. She explained how Victor told her he was taking her somewhere far away that morning, how he grabbed her arm too tightly when she resisted, and how she had slipped away the moment his phone rang and he stepped into another room. Her mother, trapped in her own fear, had begged her silently with her eyes to run. So she did. Just as Rhodes finished asking her when Victor might come looking, a black SUV screeched around the corner, slamming into a parking spot near them. Victor stepped out, face red, jaw tight, his movements sharp and predatory. He scanned the area until his gaze landed on Mariel. His hand curled into a fist. Before he took another step, Rhodes and the other Iron Valor members moved as one, forming an unbreakable barricade between the child and the men approaching. The sidewalk watchers froze. Someone whispered that the bikers looked like a wall of iron. Victor tried to push past them, shouting that she was his daughter, that she was causing trouble, that he had the right to take her home. But cruelty leaves a mark on the voice. People can hear it. And these men had heard voices like his before. Rhodes stepped closer, jaw set, his voice low but deadly calm. He asked Victor the questions only a man with nothing to hide would answer without hesitation. Victor stumbled through excuses, his anger building as he realized no one here feared him. The more he yelled, the more the truth spilled out, and the more onlookers grew uneasy. When Mariel whispered, with tears pooling in her eyes, "Please don't let him take me," Rhodes felt something inside him shift. Not rage, purpose. He signaled one of his brothers, Gunnar Locke, to call the authorities. Victor lunged forward, desperate, but two more bikers stepped in, their sheer presence forcing him back. No one touched him, they didn't need to. His fury collapsed under the weight of dozens of eyes watching him. Minutes felt like hours until police sirens finally broke the tension. Officers separated the scene. Witnesses spoke. The bikers spoke. And Mariel, trembling but brave, told the truth. Victor's story unraveled instantly. The officers placed him in the back of the cruiser, his shouts muffled behind the glass. Mariel watched, her breath shaky, her small fingers gripping Rhodes's vest for steadying comfort. Celine arrived soon after, hair disheveled, eyes swollen, and ran to her daughter. The reunion was painful and beautiful, a hug that carried months of silent suffering. Rhodes stepped back, giving them space, but his eyes stayed on them to ensure nothing could break their moment. As the police finalized their report, Rhodes placed a gentle hand on Mariel's shoulder and told her she was brave, braver than many adults he had met. And something about the softness in his voice made her finally believe she was safe. If this story has touched your heart, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps us keep spreading hope. Before we close, comment below, what would you have done if you saw this happening in real life? And so, with Mariel safe, Victor gone, and the Iron Valor bikers riding off into the distance, the town of Alder Ridge witnessed a reminder that heroes don't always wear badges or capes. Sometimes, they wear leather vests, carry heavy pasts, and stop for a simple roadside break, just in time to save a life.